Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sam Zagar. We're hopping into another YouTube reading. Now, the cool thing about this one, it is the new baby sibling to the Emotional Manifestor baby that I already read for this year. So I have a reading for a 5-1 Emotional Manifestor 1 year old. They're about to turn 2. There's a new member of the family. So mom thought because we have 2 Emotional Manifestor babies, but with quite different designs, she ordered another reading for this one so that we could compare the two. So I'm going to do a reading, not like a comparison. I'm going to do a solo reading for a 1-3 Emotional Manifestor who on my chart is labeled as 0 years old because they were only born at the end of July. This is so neat. What will I focus on? Let's get into it. Okay, the first thing that stands out to me about this design is that I have the channel of openness, just like their brother, and we have the channel of the alpha. So we are dealing with the throat, the G center, and the solar plexus. I have 3 centers defined. I'm dealing with a 1-3 profile. So when I meet this baby, what's it going to be like to meet this baby? Okay, I think about being a baby or having a baby. And I really think about like, having them be passed around. Do they gravitate towards people? Do they shy away? Passing them around is a very early activity that we do with kids, right? Because either mom cannot hold them the entire time, or we have caregivers, or someone is nursing, or someone is changing them, or extended family wants to come over and meet them, or friends want to get, maybe people want to hold your baby that you don't want to hold your baby. Maybe, oh, maybe you have the question of like, what do you want, or what would you choose for your child versus what will the child choose for themselves? Now, we would, in theory, hope that a manifestor baby will be one of the first types to be able to advocate for themselves. We've got power, we've got impact, we've usually got a pretty solid vocal expression. Now, what's interesting is a lot of the time manifestors have willpower. It's not uncommon for the ego to be defined in a manifestor. And the brother of this baby has the defined ego because they also channel community. But this baby, they don't have the ego. So what will be interesting is how competition is going to show up between the siblings. Will the younger one want the things that the older one has? Will there be this sense of competition? Or will the younger one just be like, no, that's not for me. I don't care about that. That's not valuable to me. I don't have the interest there. So, competition between the egos is one of the things I'm going to be very curious about watching 2 manifestors do. Now, 2 manifestors, okay, one was a 5-1, one's a 1-3. We repeat on the 1, so I've got 2 very curious siblings, but one of them leads with their curiosity, this one, the baby, and the toddler kind of follows with the curiosity because it's more body-led curiosity, whereas when we're coming from the mind, this baby, it's funny, I'm like, what do I call them? Baby 1, baby 2, um, toddler baby? Let's go with toddler baby. Okay, so baby is leading with this curiosity, whereas toddler is leading with their projection, which is quite different. How will the curiosity show up differently in the siblings? Now, going back to like the baby that will be like passed around and held, I have low sound determination, inner vision. Okay, so we're not a touch based cognition, we're inner vision. Okay, so we can't really talk to this baby about what's going on for it when it closes its eyes. And I'm going to expect a baby to close their eyes a lot. Maybe this is a baby where we wonder or get curious about their inner vision because we see them withdraw into an inner world, or we see that their peacefulness is like a withdrawn type of play, or maybe their peacefulness looks a lot more like a certain kind of rest. Now, resting, what is this? Okay, let's look at motors. Let's look at the activity of the body. We have 1 solar plexus motor. So, in theory, I don't want to say something like this motor's not that powerful because it is very powerful, but it's not the same kind of power that you're going to get out of, say, the root center that's giving you adrenalized power, like get up and do something about it, adrenalized power. Whereas solar plexus is like, oh, that was a lot. It's going to take a lot for me to process that. I'm going to need a lot of power to get through that. I'm going to need a lot of energy to be able to move through what's just gone on for me. We also have an active body type. We are left oriented within the environment. Mountains active. Now, when it says mountains active, that's a very easy one to be like, oh, yeah, this is an active body type. And honestly, it's mountains active being left combined with a left brain being considered an active brain that creates the idea that left bodies are active bodies. But more correctly, I guess, would be that left bodies are observed bodies. So when the left body is brought into an activity, into a level of stimulation, into a level of tension, like I have a left body. When I'm in the correct activities within my correct environment, there's a level of tension in me, not relaxation, right? I lean more in the direction of picking up an activity to regulate myself rather than dropping an activity to regulate myself. I'm going to be doing my thing. Well, people will end up watching me do my thing. Like people watchers, well, I am curious about people. I'm not much of an actual people watcher the way that a real people watcher is, because a real people watcher is content to watch. Whereas even if I was content to watch, I'd still have this like fiddle component to me or fidget component to me because I'd want to like walk around. I play with my coffee cup, like, and I think maybe as I explain these things, we see the ways in which kids get either projected on or diagnosed for just presenting differently. Now, because this kid is very, very, very right, because this baby is very right, we have a passive brain, we have a receptive mind, we have a peripheral view. Again, let's pass the little baby around. What's it like to meet this baby? I'm going to expect that this baby closes his eyes quite a bit. When the baby's eyes are open, I'm going to expect kind of what I would call like more of a floaty view. Like some babies have a way of like staring right at you, like kind of staring into your soul. I'm going to assume that that would typically be a focused view baby. Whereas this one with my peripheral view baby, I'm thinking they're like eyes closed, you kind of look, they would present as a more daydreamy baby. And also because we have the passive brain and we have the receptive mind, I'm thinking this is a baby that has that more sunrise brain rather than the light switch, right? Like it takes a minute to come online, it takes a minute to wake up. Now, because this is an emotional manifestor and the emotional wave is within individual circuitry, I think that there's a slightly heightened level of moodiness that can come out of this. One of the things that I will be mindful of is I would expect that if this baby is very tired, they have the potential to be quite moody about it. They have the potential to be quite angry if you irritate them, and especially irritate them with pressure, because I've got an undefined root center and an open head center. So we are, let's say, flexible about the ways that we're going to experience pressure coming into the body. I'm also like, just keep touching these things. I'm like, oh, a little hair will land here, and then I have a slight fan on for once, and the little hair, forgive me for irritating myself or trying to get rid of irritations with myself. But also, I feel like I'm really validating this whole like, she's fidgety within her environment and in a way that's probably like either entertaining or engaging to watch. But sometimes for other people, it's probably like, why does she move so much? I'm not even aware of it. And I think that's probably something that spends a lot of my energy. So, something maybe to be aware of for this guy, what are we spending the energy on? And how are we going to notice feelings of tiredness? And how are we going to respect them? And how are we going to know what to take seriously and what not to? And I want to call it like their reactions or their responses, because it's hard to give a name to like a baby or a child's engagement of things. But from a mechanical place, like it's not a generator, so it's not responding in that way. And it's not splenic, so it's not necessarily reactive in that way. I mean, it's obviously impactful across the board, but trying to talk to them about all of this stuff is going to be a little bit more challenging until they become older and become more articulate. But because this emotional wave is like, am I in the mood to be social or not? This is a child that I would expect to quite clearly and quickly advocate for themselves about who they wanted to be close to or not. Like if you go to pass the baby off and they're like, "Rah!" and they like either hide or they turn away or they just say no. Or honestly, I would not be surprised if they actually like push off like if you pass them to someone and then they push back and it's like, oh, like they, okay, sorry, I'll give you back to your mom. Like that's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm also expecting that there's kind of a flip side to this of like, I want that one. Like they'll either just spontaneously reach for somebody else because they're initiating that. They want that. They're trying to indicate like that way. Now what will have them gravitate towards certain people or not, be attracted to certain people or not? Attracted is such a funny word because it so often is taken in a like beauty sexual kind of way, but like we're talking about a baby here, right? So the attraction to me is energetic without necessarily acknowledging the sacral attraction component. It's just like who will your kid vibe with is actually a way better way to say this because I'm really ramping up to low sound with the individual acoustic emotional wave. I talk really fast, I think. We have an individual emotional acoustic wave and we have a low sound baby. Determination is one of the only really great things that we can help our kids with while we're raising them because you don't want to help them with too much. In theory, you want to let them be them and stay out of the way and give them kind of like the bumpers or the guides or the like, keep them in the lines a little bit, so to speak, as a parent, because that's, your job. But like give them freedom to be them as much as possible. Now, low sound is very interesting because we look at feeding kids like I'm going to feed them an item, not feed them a circumstance. Like if you leave your kid with a babysitter, it's probably going to be like, okay, we pumped some milk. It's in the freezer. You can warm it up in this bottle on the stove or in the microwave and you know, they'll eat this much of it and then they go to bed or whatever. But if we're talking about low sound, let's imagine writing instructions for the babysitter like, make sure that you're not saying anything loud that is terrible, spiteful, negative, or unnecessarily dramatic while you're cooking food for my baby or while you're warming up a bottle for my baby. And when you feed him, could you make sure that he either grabs the bottle or he pushes the bottle away for how you register how much to give him or not? And could you also tell him that you're going to put some music on and here are a variety of, I'm going to date myself so much. I can't believe I'm saying, here are a variety of CDs that you can play because I'm thinking about like when I had a baby and there were like baby music CDs. What am I going to say? Oh my God, iPod. I was going to say iPod. How old am I? Here's a Spotify list. Here's a Spotify list for my baby. Hey, baby, I'm gonna play some baby Mozart for you. Okay. And it's like, I'm sure this 3-month-old baby is not communicating to you about what is baby Mozart and its preferences, but you know, maybe if every single time you feed the kid, you say, I'm going to play classical music, and you play classical music, the one day that somebody puts on pop music, your baby's going to be a little bit jarred. Like, what is this? This doesn't sound like the other things. And then maybe you say, this is pop music. And now your baby's starting to learn, like, whoa, you said a different word and it came with a different feeling. I could pick these different feelings. So now, like, let's say you have a 2-year-old that keeps trying to steal your phone to hack into your Spotify because there's a favorite song that they want to play, and you figure it out and you put on this favorite song for them, and then they run to the cupboard and grab their favorite snack, and then they're like dancing around with their favorite snack. And like, it will be so neat to see how these things develop. I think it would be very cool. Obviously, I think it'd be very cool to have a baby and know right from the get-go what they are and how to help them. And I also understand the struggle of not wanting to help too much because we want to see them grow up to be what they are. We don't want to overly influence them. And like, what are the ways that this baby could be overly influenced? Open heart, open head. There's a very good chance that we've got a manifestor here who is going to struggle with what might feel like a lack of power, a lack of energy. Maybe there's so much about how this child will be raised that will support like a more classically masculine energy, but then they might have elements within themselves that kind of struggle with that, like non sacral, non ego, non root. Maybe they might unnecessarily identify with these more powerful qualities as being more boyish or more masculine or more, I don't know. I really don't know how this is going to go, but it's very cool to be brought into the beginning part of the conversation to give some clues, to give some guidelines. I want to talk about the channel of the alpha for a minute because we have someone who will want to be called into a place of collective leadership. This is someone who's going to, in many ways, ask to be recognized, be called in, be voted for, be elected into some type of leadership position. Now, you might see this in very small ways, like they try and lead a group of friends or lead a group of animals or lead the household. But I want to acknowledge that their need motivation, which will become a critical part of this, isn't something that we want to expect them to have developed until they're quite a bit older. If your child doesn't really feel like they're in their appropriate motivation until they're beyond Saturn return, that would be okay. That wouldn't freak me out too much. And also, like, that's very far away from now. But the point is that the need motivation is an aspect of this person's potential outer authority. And if they're going to provide that type of education to people, they're going to have to come to a place of education within themselves for that. So I expect that like whatever they take on for their education, they will have a like, and this is blah 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 blah. Like it could start so young. Like you could show him how to make bread. He could be like on your chest the entire time while you're making bread, and it's receptively absorbing like how you make bread, and then you set the baby up like when they're finally holding themselves in a seated position, and you put like little bowls in front of them, and you notice that they're like trying to put things in the bowl and mix them up, and you realize like, oh, it looks like they're trying to make bread, they're picking up that quality. Okay, and then maybe 6 months later you see that they're outside and they got pots and pans and they're really throwing stuff together, but they've also got like the dog and the cat and a stuffed animal all in a row like watching them, and he's like trying to show like this is how we make the bread. So it will be neat to see like how they learn, how they step into their leadership, how they step into like an elected type of guidance versus a manifested type of guidance or leadership. Because I've got one that's like, you know, not quite like vote for me, but it's like, oh, me? You want me to do that? I could do that. Actually, I could do a really good job. I could be really good at that. Like that's kind of how that alpha channel feels. Whereas 1222 is like, all right, it's time to like there's a more initiative quality behind it. But there's also a very kind of like withdrawn quality about it, social or not, because everything is binary, everything's a duality. Now, I'm going to play with the passive brain for a minute because I think it's really significant to support like a kind of like stress free, not stress free. I don't know if anybody really gets that, but how do I reduce stress for this child mentally, in their brain, in their mind, in their head, in their ajna? How do I have them have a enjoy the ride type of experience from a very, very young age? This would be like not expecting this child to be very focused, very action based, very structured, very strategic, very planned out, very like, okay, we're up, let's go do things. Like if if you treated this child that way, I would expect them to be moody, to be upset. I maybe would they probably won't hit you, actually. Maybe they will. There's a little bit of tribal. Okay. They got a 45, a 6, and a 27. 45. I'm going to say some jokey things here, grain of salt. 45. definitely want to have some words with you. 6 will avoid physical contact with you when its feelings are hurt by you. 27 will probably just want to like grow up to be, it's funny, I want to say better, but like more nurturing. There are some very nice tribal qualities in here. And what I'm looking for is like the ways different circuitries might act out. Tribal is the most likely to physically act out. Individual is the most likely to acoustically act out. So if we're going to go as far as abuse, but maybe let's just talk about like rough housing between siblings. I think that this child is going to be less physically rough than their brother because their brother has the ego. I think that this child might be acoustically rough equivalently to their brother because they both have the channel of openness. So they might exchange some words. They might just yell at each other. They might growl at each other. Who knows? They might love the crap out of each other and just love bomb each other constantly. Less likely, but possible. Also, their views possibility. So let's stick with the possibility of this. Now, because we've also got collective circuitry here, sharing is how this person will present like their affections towards someone or their non-affections. If this person is very sharing with you, probably have very great feelings towards you, but if you hurt their feelings, they're probably going to stop sharing with you. And really what they're going to stop sharing with you, because where this channel is self-projected channel, you're going to stop sharing their voice. This is a manifestor that will verbally shut down and stop sharing themselves when they're really upset, when their feelings are really hurt, when things aren't going well. So as much as this manifestor has the potential to be very vocal, we can also see the binary possibility that they could be very vocally shut down around, let's say, just the people that are incorrect for them. If this child does get really shut down, first thing I'm going to do is change the people around them. And honestly, for anybody at any point in your life, if you become really shut down, let's toss around the people in your life and maybe mix it up, maybe take out a few and bring in some new ones. So much of how we see ourselves and feel about ourselves doesn't actually come from us. It comes from having to consistently be around other people's opinions of us, beliefs of us, judgments, thoughts. We really do pick up so much more from other people than we're aware of. And if you're around people and you consciously wouldn't want to pick up what they're putting down, maybe you don't recognize how much you're doing it unconsciously anyway. Maybe we need to change our circle of influence. I have no idea how long I talked for. It feels like it's been a minute, and I think that there were some really great things that came out of this. On to the next one.